Well, greetings friends and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Alliance Crusader. Just before we hop in, if you haven't subscribed already, just hit the subscribe button for me. It's literally one finger's worth of effort. Makes a huge difference for me. I keep banging on about it until you subscribe, so, you know, that's the only way to shut me up. All right, let's get into it. Alright, now this is the seat that you would normally be sitting in as Commander Headless is currently occupying it. Greetings, Commander Headless, with your weird neck that always freaks me out. And let's start over here on this side as per normal. This is going to be a challenge because there's so much to see in this ship. It's one of the newer ones, which means they've thrown all the details at it. Let's start over here and then we'll progress backwards. So to begin with here, we have a Lakon screen, which for once in the Lakon's life is not a CRT, yes, but is still kind of bent up at the edges, which you can see there is not entirely a flat panel. Not really sure what it's trying to tell us, other than words and letters and numbers up the top. Is it system override enabled XX1 right at the top there, and some serial numbers, and yep, that's about all we can read apart from some various serial numbers, and not sure whether that's supposed to be indicative of a starport, a frameshift drive, a power plant, power distributor, who knows? We haven't seen any of these components, so we don't know. Up there is a canister of compressed gas. It's about 2 feet long, and it seems to be connected to that black pipe over there, so we'll have a look at that once we get over there. Over here, there is a thing that says power outlet with some plugs coming out the side, and a serial number which goes away or comes back depending on where you go. So it looks like 7X51 with 0 in front, but then you go over here and it disappears, bizarrely. This panel is on a bit of a skewed angle over towards the top right, so it's a bit of a rhombus sort of shape. And down here, I'm sure there's meant to be straight lines, but you can see clearly they are not. Some vents, some greebling, cabinetry here that says do not remove, behind which is, behind which we can just see through the back of this part of the cockpit. So there's actually nothing back here, but it is a space, which is kind of interesting. Down here is a very small schematic. It almost looks like a circuitry schematic. It's about the size of a phone screen, and can't really make out what that's supposed to say. There's a sticker that says, Lakon, bunch of numbers. Once in transit, do not operate or go near rear cores or directional thrusters. Hard points should not be operated until fully deployed. Okay, cool. I mean, it makes sense, and for once I can read it. Hooray! There's a thing that's clearly a power outlet, and some greebling down there. Going back to the top here, we have two circular things with what looks like the Star of Life in the middle. Clearly it's not meant to be that, but I'm not sure what it's meant to represent. And some wiring coming up into this hull section that goes over the top. Now over here there's a grab handle which is approaching human size, so it's actually only about 1 foot in length for the whole thing, so that's probably a correct size and scale for a human hand. There's a repeat of that Lakon sticker, which is too small to read, and here is something that says Vega 1978 backwards. At the top of these struts we have some lights, cables going in, and more cables and things coming down the underside of the very front strut towards the bottom. We'll have a look at this section in some more detail, I think, because you can't really see it, because it's normally hidden by the main console. Interestingly, on the back of the console it actually says Lakon. It looks like a Yamaha on the back of a keyboard as it's facing the audience, so that's a bit, I don't know, it's just how my mind works, I guess. There's a Lakon down here and repeated on the other side. And another quick little panel that indicates some stuff. A Tetris game in progress or something similar. Not really sure. And then by the time we come over here, this is the front of the ship itself, and you can see there's a sheer drop there from the front. So here we are right at the very front of the Crusader. This is a substantially large area here in the front with this large box. It doesn't look like it opens in any way that I'm sort of kneeling on, but clearly a big area here in front of the Commander. Now I haven't reset my view yet, so everything that you're seeing so far is in the one space, just so you know. The holographic projection here, same size as normal, as size of a dinner plate, and this large holographic projector is about 1 meter wide and about 70 centimeters deep. And the representation here of the starport is about just under a foot in length. I'd say probably this one's about 10 inches, 9 inches. So this one's a little bit smaller than some of the other ones, which is a bit weird. Down the front of this console, we have these two screens which could clearly display something but do not, and no other handles. And the very underside of the console is just black, not textured really, or at least not in a way that we can discern from this angle. Right, we have another sticker here that says Lakon, and this one with Vega 1978 is not backwards, but I'm still no clearer as to what that's supposed to indicate. So someone can tell me that in the comments if you know. And the same as the previous side, just repeated over here, so nothing else there. And another Lakon sign, serial A-78. I really want you to know this is Lakon chip, there's so many labels. Now in terms of the main console, so here is where the end actually is, this pointy corner. Here would be where the grab handle is, to give you the context. And over here is the other grab handle and the other corner of that front console, to give you an idea. The inside bit, the raised edge, comes to about there, and conversely ends about here. So this thing is huge. And it looks like it has wings on the end that you could send off and make it fly by itself. Overactive imagination. I think I've had too much coffee. Down here we have a bit of a bar chart or something similar on the left hand side. Another repeat of those stickers, a repeat of the power outlet symbol, and a column graph down there through the console. And again, that Tetris game in progress. And that's about it. Right into the floor, you can see some piping there going in towards the front of the ship between the floor, and the floor seems to be made of this metal mesh material combined with metal that's blue colored on the top, some hexagonal indented silver metal there, and a couple of lights and bits and bobs, and the old carbon fiber there inlaid in the front. So back to this compressed gas canister on the right side of the commander. We have the gas pipe coming out as shown before, a few more numbers there, and it goes just into the wall. Another one of those Tetris games, and a bit of greebling there before some more piping and wiring that now goes up past a sign that says caution to a reverse Lakon. That's an unusual mistake. Back down here we have what appears to be a fire extinguisher, and uniquely this one actually has a squeezy handle. All the rest of them just sort of end. This one's also black and the others are red. This one says do not remove, which is a bit disconcerting in the case of an emergency, and that's about it. Obviously the locks would come undone. I can almost get to this box that's here on the wall. It's about a foot high and about 1.5 feet in depth, or in sort of length. Nice little grab handle on the side. Looks like a good old-fashioned shock-resistant Pelican case for your camera gear or whatever else you're taking on your space voyage with you that needs to be protected. Probably not your lunch. And here is the underside of the console for the right-sided pilot. And you can see there again it says Lakon/Yamaha. And coming back around to the left-hand side of the ship, we have this cool schematic, which I'll try and get close to as I can. That's about it. Shows you the Crusader from the top, and it's pointing to various bits, but all of it, all of it's in low res, to the point that you can't actually read it, which is a bit of a shame. Another one of those, moving backwards, more greebling. There's a panel down here, which looks like it has smaller panels in it that should open and close, but doesn't give you an indication of function. Another one of these fire extinguishers, again with the actual nozzles, which is nice, and a do not remove panel down there with, again, a different sort of Lakon symbol. It says similar things to the other one, it's just sort of abridged. You can pause and read that yourself if you like. And we have a bit of a closer look at one of those Pelican cases, and if we stick our face inside, of course, there is nothing inside. And the left-hand side co-pilot console, which is identical to the other one. Now these steps are actually pretty hilarious. They're, well, one step is here, the next step is there. So they're tiny little dainty steps. You could, at a run, easily jump that, or you would want to go floor, middle, top. There's no reason at all to step on each one of those stairs. That would be ludicrous. And you can see on either side of the stairs we have this lovely polished handrail, which is reflecting the exterior of the starport there, and you know, obviously it would do the job of a handrail as you went up these stairs. So here we are in the view of the right-hand sided co-pilot, and this is the view that they would have of the other pilot over there, and also of the back of the commander. The console in front of these guys comes from here and goes to there. It is effectively a miniature version of the center part of the commander's console. You can see the two compared there in every respect, except for this weird floating thing that's mainly supposed to be clearly attached to the emitter there, but it has become detached. A few readouts over here next to the pilot, and these ones, continuing the theme of the CRTs, or the weird outwardly blobby screens. There's a bunch of different blobby screens showing a different thing each. We can get a bit closer there, but we can't see what it actually says. We can't read what it actually says. There is a bit of an indicator of what appears to be a view of the interior of the Crusader. So you can see there it comes backwards, and then maybe stairs going down. Yes, in fact, stairs going down from there to something. It doesn't give you an indication of where it's going, but I am going to be shoving my head as close to down there as is humanly possible, so we'll hopefully get to see where that goes. More paneling down here. Another do not remove with a serial number. Bit of circuitry maybe, or some sort of plugs for things over here. I know it's not particularly interesting, but for the sake of completion, and this very long grab handle that's probably 1 meter and a bit in length. And that thing in the center is very much just floating in the air. And I'm going to see if I can get a bit closer to it, but it doesn't actually seem to be attached by anything. There you are, that's the top of that section that's just floating there in midair. No idea what that's for. On the roof here, there are more grab handles than you can poke a stick at. There's smaller ones here, which would definitely take 2 hands. And there is that one here that goes from there all the way to up and over there. So a very large grab handle, and there's like 3 of them, a bunch of them everywhere. So basically it's a very large cockpit, so you've got to have as many grab handles as you can get, I suppose, to get around. So now, heading around the back of this pilot's chair, we'll see how far around the corner we can actually get. So here we can see a repeat of that same panel that we saw just there, exactly the same thing, heading down from top to bottom there, and a Lakon panel down here, and another one with a do not remove and a serial number. Big thing down the bottom that says power outlet. Now there's one camera angle that puts you just in front of that keep clear door, so you can see some of these things in Pancake. But we'll head around here anyway, just to give you a look at the rest. A few more of these, I'll call them chocolate bars, really. They sort of pop out of the wall with writing on the top. Willy Wonka has been around here or something like that. Another one of these greebling panels. So basically, these ones that are copied here are sort of just scattered throughout this ship. So I'm just going to skim over them. And over here we have another chocolate bar, and then another panel down there. Now, of course, down the stairs is where we all want to see, and unfortunately, it's pretty plain. I would love to have seen a door going through the back or to the right, which is where I always expected there to be a door in this ship, but sadly, it is not to be. Regardless, though, you can see on the wall there are some maybe wall reinforcements or some other, I don't know, bits of greebling or something, and that's kind of about it. So, yeah, that we can see it, but boo, there's nothing there. Yeah, something like that. If we just try and see the underside of the ceiling there, you can see it's just more of that sort of thatchy kind of mesh texture, so nothing particularly exciting. And obviously you can see there graphical glitch where we can see the inside of the ship. And for the sake of completeness, if I peek through this janky camera, you can also see that on the other side of the ship it is just cut and paste. It's the same, and there's no door or anything on that side. So again, more work that would need to be done before spacelegs became a thing. And just before I head through the door, I've managed to glitch myself outside of the ship itself here at the front. If I move into this corner, you can start to see some more low-res kind of stuff going on over here with these gigantic engines on the sides, but obviously they are low-res and glitching and janky and, well, just basically low-res in general. The other thing that's kind of funny is if I go up here, you can see that the hardpoints cover is kind of half open, half closed, or maybe just in a strange direction. Not really sure what's going on with that one, but it's extremely clear that you're not supposed to look at this thing from this direction in VR or in first-person mode. Alright, so it's about time for me to walk through the door behind me, and you can see that I'm standing directly in front of the door, so we're going to get the maximum view through here that is possible, which is handy. Love this camera. Gigantic grab handles here, probably big enough for about 10 to 15 people to hold. Well, without further ado, and let's go through. So the first immediate thing you see is the layout of those side corridors. So if we go over to those first, you can see that again they come down the stairs here. There's a bit of a graphical glitch that we saw earlier, which is in fact the landing gear coming up through the floor there. An unfortunately fairly common situation with these ships, sadly. And then you can just see that the corridor finishes in a blank wall, as we previously expected. And the same thing on the other side. So we'll start by looking straight up, and obviously that hardpoint that has its janky cover on or half off is directly above us. I should be able to stick my head into it. So here we can see some greebling that you never get this close to, obviously. That's on the inside of the hardpoint, just some piping and things like that. The floor of this looks like it's kind of made out of panels of carbon fiber, different sizes and heights. And obviously there's greebling that kind of repeats itself throughout. Big long pipes, probably like a foot before they curve, and this one's, I don't know, 2.5 foot long or something like that. And these are individual transistors or whatever they are. They're about, you know, the size or diameter of a can of Coke. So that gives you an idea of how big those actually are in real life. You can see here in the rear of the hardpoint there are these, I don't know, struts or columns or whatever they are, but there's a close-up look of those because obviously you see them from far away when this thing actually deploys. Whoa, tracking, so glitchy. Just trying to get further to the corners to see the insides of those motors that are sort of used to make the hardpoint go up and down, but it just won't let me. Alright, so directly below us we can see the cargo bay. I won't give you a detailed look on that one. You can have a look at my very first Sidewinder video, and I'll give you a good interior view of that. But obviously directly behind it, and as a good size comparison, you can see the fighter bay, which takes up pretty much the entire interior of this whole ship, because directly beyond it, the wings start over there. So the entire middle bottom section is filled up with the fighter bay, again illustrating how big these fighter bays actually are. There you go, just realized I could jank myself down a little bit more into the corridor here. So that would be the view if you're walking up from the rear of the ship. It's on a bizarre angle on my head, I'm trying to keep it level for you. If you're walking up the stairs and into the ship itself to get into your commander's chair. And a close-up view of the wall, which is, yep, that's a wall, definitely. And down underneath the floor here, so underneath those stairs that come down and through which the landing gear janks, you can obviously see another hard point there in the front, and you can see the landing gear here, which are about the standard 2 stories in height, and really, really chunky and in sort of that fist kind of configuration that we've seen before. And finding ourselves here at the rear of the ship, we can see these downturn thrusters when this thing lands, which do a similar thing to the Diamondback Explorer. I suspect that they're also not rendered in their movements as it takes off, just like the Diamondback, which is a bit of a shame. But you can see the size of these. So the middle one at the top there, I would say it's maybe about that much in terms of diameter. And those ones down the bottom, they're probably about that much. In terms of the size, width, length, it's really hard to judge, and it's getting harder as the ships get bigger. I would say the height to that rear spoiler is probably 4 stories in height, maybe slightly higher than the Asp Explorer is what it feels like. I would say from this vantage point, the Commander sits probably 3 stories. The 3rd story sort of window would be where the canopy actually is. So it's a very high off the ground kind of ship and a fairly aggressive sort of stance here. We're pretty much stood on the ground, maybe about 6 inches floating off the ground, so it's not too bad this time around. Those side engines there are probably both the length of a city bus and, well actually they're probably the size of a double-decker you know, tourist bus from London, if you're familiar with those of you who watch from the UK, I'm sure they are. So yeah, those side engines are about the size of a 2-story London bus, as are fairly similarly the 2 engines on either side of the cockpit. They're probably a little bit narrower than a 2-story bus, to be honest, but the right height of one minus the wheels. And the hard point there you can see in front. And this thing is huge, and it has an impressive wingspan similar to, you know, probably a 747. Right, well, that's janky as all get out, isn't it? So as you could see there, the landing gear retracts here behind where we're basically straight through this cargo bay and between these two walls, and it sort of crosses into itself and pretty much hits that hard point in the roof. So yeah, that doesn't work.
Understood. Initializing fighter startup.
So here's your image of the fighter leaving from this close proximity.
I'm out of the hatch,
Pretty awesome.
Commander. Tell me where you need me. Bringing the fighter in now.
So here's another view of the fighter coming in. This is about as close as we can sort of get to the fighter bay in these ships. So here's a nice close-up view of it coming in, and
Sorry, Commander.
see what happens as it disappears. Although I'm pretty sure that that seat is unoccupied.
Ready to leave, Commander.
And finally, if we just deploy the landing gear, you can sort of see how they're crossed over in the middle there and how they come out sort of a bit staggered formation in terms of timing and also direction, and both of them glitching through the floor there fairly heavily. And there's the cargo bay deploying directly below us as well, dropping us out into space, which is cool, but kind of a bit scary. So that's about it, friends, for the Alliance Crusader. You can see that it's a fairly large but very heavily combat-capable ship, especially with that ship launch fighter, which obviously helps those capabilities significantly, although it takes up pretty much the entire inside of the ship, and it, along with the cargo bay, fills up most of the interior and those giant hardpoints all over the shop. But regardless, there'd be enough space to have a bit of cabin interior, whatever it is, storage, or, you know, a chicken soup dispenser, for you to walk around in once spacelegs becomes a thing. Now, I've done a bit of research using YouTube analytics, and it turns out about 1% of the people who will watch this video will actually click the subscribe button. So please, don't be that person. Please hit subscribe, and it makes a huge difference for me, and it helps me to sort of grow and create more of these videos and grow the channel. So that would really help. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Fly safe, Commanders.